Hi guys, this is Annie with the Gentle Awakening channel. A topic I want to talk about today is frustration and depression or anxiety over the awakening process, or experiencing frustration and maybe some depression and anxiety when you're going through the awakening process. This is an issue I have encountered with many of my clients that I work with to support them through their awakening process. They feel like they have moments of clarity where they're in touch with source or energies or higher level consciousness, your higher self, whatever term you want to give to it. They feel like they have moments that they're in touch with that and kind of can see through the veil of the shared psychosis that everyone kind of survives in, and see things, in a different way, in a higher level, higher consciousness perspective. And then they have these moments of clarity, and it feels good, and they feel empowered and inspired and passionate about their awakening. But then they have to go back to the day-to-day process of life and surviving, and kind of feel that they get pulled back into this, shared psychosis of reality, the brainwashed, conditioned reality that everybody kind of has accepted and lives in. And, that can cause some like a feeling of letdown, disappointment, because you're perceiving reality in a higher way, and then you have to interact with people, you have to get through your day, and you kind of get pulled back into their reality, or you're still struggling to try to see it in the way that you did in that moment of clarity that you had while interacting with people that are in this shared psychosis. It's a brainwashed reality that people live in. Relatives, friends, co-workers, in general, people that surround you live in a conditioned perspective of a reality that they perceive based on how they were conditioned to perceive reality. And as you're going through the awakening process, you're trying to see reality, in a more real way, without the veils in front of you, without the conditioning and the brainwashing. So you're aware that everything is not as mundane and tedious as life seems to be, and yet you get pulled back into it. And this can cause issues with depression or frustration, even anxiety. You want to be at a higher level of consciousness, and you're working towards that with this awakening process, but you feel like you kind of slip in and out of it. I just wanted to make this video to tell you that's kind of normal with the awakening process. If you feel like that's just you or you're failing, that's not true. It's not true. It's a kind of, that's the process. And part of the game is to, allow yourself to have moments where you're in touch with, a higher level of seeing things, a more real way of seeing things that isn't conditioned, that isn't brainwashed, perception, but also be able to have one foot in getting through your day and interacting with people that are in the shared psychosis. But how do you maintain that and still survive and function in society the way it is? Depending on who you're around, who you're surrounding yourself with. In some cases, you have to cut people out. I mean, if people are like intentionally pulling you down, or they have some agenda to pull you away from your awakening process, sometimes those people are basically not worth your time and worth cutting out. Other people, they are living the way they perceive reality to be, and if they're not intentionally being malicious with you, you kind of have to interact with them in their reality, because that's where they are at. The suggestions I would give, I have 4 things here. One is to not go into self-blame. It's very easy to go into a self-blame state, and that also is conditioned. Keep in mind that, feeling guilty or inferior and anything like that, blaming yourself for not reaching a goal that you think is a goal you should be able to reach within whatever time, whatever you're thinking, that's conditioned thinking, because we weren't born, having the feeling that we're inferior or blaming ourselves. So that's like conditioned thinking from your childhood and from your upbringing. So just recognize that. If you start getting into self-blame, I should have, I could have, I should have, could have, whatever, right? Recognize that for what it is, which is conditioned thinking, and try to let that go. Comparing yourself to others, that's also a conditioned way of thinking. Comparing yourself to others. And what happens with it is not only do you compare yourself to others, but you'll compare yourself with others unrealistically. You know, how you perceive. It's kind of like you're operating from your perception of someone else's perception of things, you know, and you're guessing, and you may not be guessing right. So don't compare your awakening process with someone else's. Don't guess at what they go through or don't go through, or, you know, everybody kind of comes in and out and is at a different point in their process, but everybody has struggles and, you know, goes into self-blame and all different kinds of things. So don't compare yourself or think I should have been at this point by now, or I should have, you know, been able to do this or that in this way, like that person. All of that is conditioned thinking, and part of the awakening process is to get out of that conditioned thinking. So recognize that that's stuff from your upbringing that people have put into you to be like, oh, but what about them? And they did this better than you. And what about your cousin and your, you know, your brother? And all of that is not valid. You are your own unique self, and your own unique process is your own perception of where you should be in the awakening process. You are where you are, you know, and we're conditioned to think of things as like no pain, no gain. You know, the more work you do, and actually you'll get more moments of clarity and in touch with letting the veils part and seeing things more real and being at a higher level of awakening, a higher level of consciousness, when you let go of the idea of working at it, you know, working harder at it. That's kind of counterintuitive to it. It's more a matter of letting go of the conditioned thinking, letting go of self-blame and guilt and shame, and letting go of your past, and just letting go of things that the way you've been conditioned and brainwashed to think. It's more a matter of letting go than it is a matter of working harder. You know, that idea of working harder, that's, I'm not saying not to work hard in life, but I'm just saying as far as the awakening process goes, it's more of a matter of letting go and relaxing than it is working harder than the next person on that they're working on their awakening process. And then the other thing is just like acceptance of yourself, acceptance of where you're at, acceptance of what you're capable of and what your potential is, in spite of what other people might have told you, and other people might have put self-limiting beliefs in you that are not valid, although they are working against you. So they're real if you believe them. If you believe the things that people have put in there about yourself that are limiting you. But like I said, it's a matter of letting go of things. Anyway, that's what I have for today. I'm going to try to make some more videos on this channel. I know I've kind of not been here, but I want to come back and do this channel. I'm inspired. So peace, and I'll put some links below for website and other things. Okay, have a good day.